but definitely limiting those picks is going to work out, because say for instance he's only got 4 games of the Ksante, so I think it's trying to get comfort picks away from Bin always works out well.
And it's so nice seeing these two top laners go up against each other. Zika, who's really improved on the carry style tops and was called like a flex player but never reaching the highs of 369 on one role or Bin on the other. Now when we see them head to head, we can change that around, as Orianna for the first time, or at least one of the first times I should say, is let through. I
think it's surprising to see the high priority on it, because I was thinking Syndra for Knight could be up there, Ashe could be incredibly important, but not going to be the case. Also the Ziggs left open for Gala. Gala is an incredible Ziggs player, but Zika's Rumble yesterday was crucial in a lot of those teamfight successes, so they're going to try and get that back for himself again.
A lot of people said yesterday LNG had a strange read. It looked like a blast from the past too, right? With things like the Tristana for Scout, like the Rumble that we talked about, but they piloted it so damn well that you can see the teamfight presence coming through. WeiWei, a facilitating jungler. You'd look at the Sejuani, you'd look at the Maokai both being open as we hover and have a second think.
Yeah, I think this is more of a, you're probably going to take the Nocturne with the Orianna, and a shout out to that, but I think WeiWei definitely has a lot in his champion pool. Yes, he's been Sejuani, but he's actually going to lock it in. I was going to say he's got plenty carry picks, and Nocturne fits into that wheelhouse, so it definitely feels like a take away from the potential setup from Wei, but Vi's here. And honestly, I prefer that side of the equation.
And Dagda alongside Knight. I know we've already got a mid laner there as well, but seeing this combo, this reminds me of Shun. This reminds me of like old BLG as well, where you have a mage, playmaking mage mid, and have something from Wei that can set up, I mean, Shun in the past.
And I think as well, this is something that fits very well for Knight. Knight, over the course of the start of summer, was fairly quiet, and I think partly that was, hey, I'm getting used to this AD carry meta, but also the AD carry is just not being as strong in early skirmishes. Knight traditionally has been a player that wants to get heavily involved in the early stages, play for those 3v3s and 2v2s, so I think having this Vi Orianna combo opens up BLG to play aggressive for those Void Grub skirmishes.
And while we were considering that, I mean, like, Bin had this little smile in the corner of his mouth, thinking like, yeah, I could probably play Fiora against this, why not? But Ksante in the end, I mean, even though Bin didn't play it throughout the playoffs, like, he has incorporated a lot more tanks into the pool. People who saw him last World, it was a very different meta for him, where it was just like, yeah, we play carry, and Bin doesn't really play tanks. That has obviously changed, obviously, since MSI as well.
I mean, it is something that he hasn't played a huge amount of this split, though. He has definitely gone towards, like we were saying, the Renekton's, the Kennons, and I honestly thought he'd have something a little bit more of a counter pick for the Rumble, but happy to just go back towards tank, and it looks like for BLG, they kind of took a look at LNG's games yesterday and said, hey, look, your macro wasn't great, your ability to play sides didn't really function amazingly, let's just try and play for this late game scaling team fight and see how we get on.
And we'll get through lanes. I mean, BLG is so good at getting through even lanes or even ahead in matchups they don't normally do. More on that as we get into game, as Scout got his Yone. That's a big pick for the mid lane legend as they start banning away some of those ADs left to dry.
And I'm curious if, well, I think we definitely need some sort of setup here for Hong in that bottom side for LNG. I think your best bet is trying to look towards something like a Rakan. I think he had a great performance on it domestically, and even when you look at the last series that these two faced off, his Rakan in Game 3 was crucial to the success of them actually being able to turn around some of these dives, set up in these team fights, and find that Game 3 win. So maybe get a little bit of a throwback here for Hong.
When Hong's performing well, this team looks like a different beast as well. I feel like he's had a lot of criticism coming into the tournament, and there is a reason why, if you go back and watch through some of the games in summer, is that Ziggs you talked about for Gala that was left open. They didn't prioritize it, so now they lose it.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they went for the Ziggs here, though. I feel like you kind of want some sort of setup, and sure, you can go for like Scout, Yone ult into that setup, but WeiWei doesn't really provide a ton of easy CC to set up, so we'll have to see what the game plan is. Kai'Sa, respect ban towards Elk as well. Gala is a big proponent for that as well. I thought we might actually see him go towards the Kai'Sa here, but I am curious now if it is just going to be something like a Jinx setup here for BLG. And then I want to know what Gala has as an answer to that.
I wonder if that means On will change what he does. No ban from BLG. Disrespect or just lack of time to actually lock something in. That is our first no ban of Worlds, as far as I know. So, BLG, what's the deal?
It's probably just going to be an Ashe Jhin trade maybe, but I think I'm a little nervous about BLG's damage output if you go towards Elk on Jhin here, so I like that. At least LNG are taking the Ashe away, as that's kind of the higher DPS, but we saw yesterday that static shiv Jhins worked out perfectly for people, where I have never seen so many people dying to static shiv procs, so maybe Elk is just feeling comfortable to go for it again.
I mean, again, like, these Jhins are hitting different in the main stage already, even after a single day. As you said, it's the only thing left up and available. Our 2 utility AD carries go up head-to-head against each other again. Now we just have to find out where On lands, because he's going to get counterpicked by Hung. We know that things like the Rell are open, Dagda the Nautilus, the Leona, there's a plethora of support still left.
You could just immediately go towards Braum if you're feeling comfortable here. It's not something that traditionally we've seen in the LPL, but it means that you can have the answer to what you assume is going to be an engage pick coming through, like the Alistar or the Rell or even a Leona here for Hung.
Looks like just a standard answer instead of maybe taking it away. And I have had confirmation it was a missed ban. It just missed. That is no bug. So, okay. The LPL versus LPL matchup starts off in a very, very nice way. On the other side, what's the response? There's a lot of dashes in, Dagda.
Yeah, I think I'd personally like something like the Rakan to try and disrupt the engage that's coming through from the Vi. You can pop the charm, but I can understand the Poppy in the same boat, but it just doesn't give you that go-in tool. So it feels like it's going to be very heavily on like Gala trying to set up with these arrows for picks and then having that side lane pressure come through from Scout. So I think you've got a pretty clear game plan for LNG, and I think that's where a game plan that revolves around Scout oftentimes is successful for LNG, so having him on the Yone, a comfort pick for him, is going to work out great. But for BLG, we already kind of said, look, it's late game team fighting, trying to set up for these big wombos with the Vi and the Orianna, and just making sure that you can try and keep Gala safe here on LNG, but that's going to be a tough one.
It really is, but Gala, team fighting AD carry, at least one of the best in the LPL, and he started making a name for himself over the past couple of years. Dagger, I remember, I think we were casting at the time, it was when he came in and replaced RNG. I think when they were looking for a new AD carry, Betty came in from the PCS, and they were like, we need someone new, found the star in Gala, and look at him now.
I mean, it was Gala and WeiWei coming in from eStar, right back in the day.
Oh my God, yeah.
The first year, so kind of getting the reunion from the first.
As we get our domestic rivalry, one that Dagda said before, we didn't see as of late. It was only in that ascension stage. As you mentioned, LNG the only ones to take down BLG in a best of 3, but this is best of 1 territory, and this is the matchup we didn't get in playoffs whatsoever. So first seed versus third here to move on to 2-0. Means one LPL team will be on that match point. We'll move to BO3s here at the Swiss stage at Worlds.
Yeah, I think the difficulty here for BLG is going to be the lack of, pushing bot and top, because it's going to open up WeiWei to be a real threat when it comes to his first move on skirmishes or even having the support from his team. And I think that's where LNG have started to come alive, is when they can try and get these early leads for a scout play towards the mid lane and then lean that in towards sideline pressure. But already that pressure coming through here as they start to move forward. Gala forced to flash away.
Yeah, he does just leave it out, doesn't he? Elk's got a 4-shot he's holding on to, but what are we going to get in the end? Ignite, flash from Gala. Elk did have to cleanse as well, but having that flash up and available means that for BLG, slight advantage with the importance of that summoner spell.
Yeah, and you can even see Wei starting up on this top side as well, so he's happy to just roam down towards this bottom side, and that could set up a nice early lead for BLG that can carry through, because you can see on the head-to-head, surprisingly, it is BLG who are behind.
Remember as well, BLG only in recency, it became this BLG-JDG rivalry. Before that, it was JDG Top Esports. Before that, it was EDG, RNG, the old Classico. And of course, we had the FPX IGs within the mixes as well. But BLG have only just built themselves up. They had some really rough years where we had the Uzi Super Team.
Meteor in 2020 as well. That one started off so well in winter. And then
remember,
spring even, it just
BLG Kuro, remember, went to Rift Rivals as well. Like, he was on the team for a little bit. Like, this team has gone through so many different iterations, but LNG have been around for a while. And remember, they were also Snake eSports before they became LNG, running Flandre every single day of the week, who now became world champion the year he left LNG.
And now they've swapped over to Zika, the bidding king, he's called in China, because he's the highest transfer fees of any player in the year he transferred over to LNG.
I'm surprised.
Which was sick.
Oh, good block. Hung flashed in front to block the deadly flourish. Very smart move, but now he's got no summoners too.
Yeah, this is, again, only an opportunity for BLG to try and set up more pressure on towards his bottom side. And Nice is going to be kind of the focal point for me in holding this pressure for BLG. You can see him pushing in, good damage on towards Scout already. And if you can start to put pressure into this bot side jungle, which On is already setting up, This could be where BLG make the hurt onto WeiWei.
WeiWei's already gone deep into the Grom. Hung is now covering a Hex Flash just to get in the face, but fakes it out, and Wei starts up the blue buff for now. Trying to lure in LNG, but it might just end up being an easy takeaway.
Yeah, I think it should be, and this is nice from BLG to just use this bot side pressure thanks to those early summoner spells being burnt. Wei even moving towards mid scout. Half HP, so should be fine. I don't think you're going to go for any sort of gank. I think it's just to deny access to Nice here for WeiWei.
It's just such a good lane already though, right? As you said, push scout away. Wei just walks in, and I realized, Dagda, when we have Wei versus WeiWei, it's an even better throwback for you and I. Like RNG Wei, and then when we had Weibo Weiwei.
Yeah, and then JDG had Big Wei.
Big Wei is still around.
And we still have Xiao Wei, which just means little Wei.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah.
I continue missing the LBL, like the amount of times we had. So which way? Which way are we going? Well, we're going top side for now. You've got more questions, I know, as Wei is down in the bottom side. So both Weis on different sides of the map as BLG get the push in. And look at the zoning this Vi is doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Wei, this is the beauty of watching Wei, is how good he is at understanding what are the options of his opponent, how he can shut them down, and then just enable the lanes to play as aggressively as they want. And I think that's why we saw that swap from Jhin towards Wei, because even when you look back at the RNG days, this was where Wei stood out as just being able to support his individual laners. One MSI playing that style, and now BLG are like, hey, maybe we can use that to win international tournaments as well.
It's helping the good laners, right? You have a flexible jungler. This is the argument for Wei over Jhin, where Jhin, a lot of the time we saw, you know, even at MSI, right? Playing towards the bot side, exposed by Gen G, hurt them a lot. Where did the direction go from there?
Yeah, but I think it's also a style that Knight's particularly used to, because when you look back at like top eSports 2020, when Knight started winning his first championships, it was, hey, we're just going to try and support you on the map. We're going to make sure that you can just continually put pressure forward, because we've got 369, who's one of the best top laners, and now Scout actually in a lot of trouble.
He is in a lot of trouble. Knight doesn't have much mana, but he continues that clockwork wind up and just autos him down. Scout has to teleport back in, sure, but Knight's going to push this wave in. A couple of CS denied.
And look at where On is as well. On just supporting him here because he knows the Hung is missing off the map. And if anyone tries to go aggressive here, he's just going to be there to help them out. And WeiWei needs to try and continue to farm to get towards level 6, but he's not really having access to a lot of his camps right now, waiting for these bot side camps to respawn his Scout, taking more damage.
Oh my lord. He's trying to stick around. He just doesn't want to lose too much CS, but it's a Knight lane kingdom again, and this is what we know him for, Dagda. This is what he's built up his legacy in LPL. Because Knight, if you go back to just playoffs, and I know they're a winning team, but he averages 10 CS a minute. Like, it just kind of shows you the caliber of lane and how clean he is. And again, playing this matchup to fruition, he's bullying out in the range advantage.
And this was not the way that we saw their regular season games go. LNG were game one heavily focused on this bottom side, putting Elkanon behind, abusing the fact that Elkanon loved to play these hyper-aggressive lanes. And but with WeiWei on this Nocturne, he can't really have access or input to those lanes. Even having those early summoner spells burnt really put a hindrance onto this LNG bot side.
Yeah.
And now it's just BLG getting to play their game, slowly building up these leads as the game goes on.
Wei is getting close towards level 6, and while you're concerned about the Nocturne, I'm curious about the change of pace that happens with the 6 from WeiWei on the other side. When we start hitting those ultimate marks, you can see WeiWei is just covering for the time being, but he moves down towards Dragon. Junglers meet head-to-head, and LNG just clearing vision around this Dragon. It wouldn't be an LPL game without just seeing teams focus around Dragon, because it was talked about on day one, but like the likes of like Gen G and Humble Life, everyone's moving up for grubs. LPL teams like, no, we need this Dragon, let's start it off.
Yeah, I thought we'd get more pressure towards the Void Grubs, especially when you're looking towards Scout. I think he'd love to try and get these early plays, but the lack of control over the mid lane really started to hinder them, and they just saw that they had the opportunity to get the push for Gala on this bottom side, so let's use that to go for Dragons. Does mean you're not going to get like 4 or 5 for a split push in Yone, but, or sorry, 4 or 5 Void Grubs for a split push in Yone, but you're still fine, I think, as LNG to just try and focus on early Dragon takes, so BLG don't have an objective to force you into fights later.
And maybe as well with that Dragon take for LNG, gives a bit of space to Gala and Hung, who've been shoved up against the turret for the duration of the game. It's also because as TP comes through in top, Elk looks like he took a reset, then walked back to lane, and is just coming back to catch the wave. I
think it's also Gala now having his flash available is way less vulnerable on this bottom side from On, like flashing in with a Q or looking for that follow-up crash down if Wei's in the area. But with Wei hitting 6, like I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of pressure now down towards this bottom side for Wei. Just the easy Q flash from On, try and burn some summoner spells, follow up with the ultimate from Wei. There's a very ease of access on towards a champion like Ashe in that bot side.
Well, that Ashe is going to throw out a Hawk shot once again. and just spot out information. Not gathered, a little bit short, but sees it clear, and you've got to assume at that point, like, okay, he's probably going to be at Gromp, or Wei is trying to position to maybe something in the top side for a potential dive as arrows thrown out, and Elk instant cleanse away, summon it down.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of information for BLG though as well on the opposite side. Like you can see on your mini map, just the little ward that's always been placed here by On, right as he went to cover in mid lane as well. So it's been spotting out a lot of when WeiWei tries to enter in towards that river portion. I think this is something that BLG are exceptional at, and it's why you oftentimes see On playing hyper aggressively. It's because he's able to infer a ton of information just off these deep wards that BLG consistently get in their jungle.
And syncs up with that information with Wei. It's been another pressing factor that BLG have been so good at, where LNG on the other side, I know over the course of this split have been criticized about how Hung and WeiWei sync up a little bit. You know, again, new jungler coming through when Tarzan was kind of the cornerstone of this LNG roster, as we only remember. But it's always about support and jungle. Top LPL teams can do it, and that's where LNG is a difference. That's where they've received their criticism to be real.
Well, Hung is also just a lunatic. Which doesn't
well said.
Like, back in his Rare Adam days, he was the one that would, like, flash in to ignite to get tempo advantage on your AD carry. This man is insane.
I feel like On was also a lunatic. The difference was he just refined his lunacy and then just got better at doing it more consistently. It became less off, more on. You know, and Hung, you're right. Like, that's why Pyke I always associate with him, because I think, like, Hung's pocket pick Pyke is so crazy. But you also go back and you're like, the amount of times I've seen him absolutely run it with that pick.
I mean, it's the beauty of Hung. And also On, right? They are, they can be incredible, but they can just sometimes completely miss.
Isn't it great as well? I feel like, you know, Elk and Gala also share some similarities. Both great team fighting AD carries. I think Elk has become more known as a laner as well, especially since this BLG roster heading into MSI and heading into previous splits, I should say, was so good at these 2v2 lanes, right? This game, it's a bit of a drawback for me, because even though they're winning the 2v2 lane with a good CS advantage, thanks to the early summoners you went on about, Elk and On, it's been a relatively stable game of less bullying, more taking control. Yeah,
I think, though, Gala and Hung should be able to now bully on this bottom side and look for potential rotate for the Void Grubs. You can see the push is starting to come through from Gala. Hasn't got the arrow available that was already used on a previous attempt at a pick, but it means that now in this position, I think they can try to move members up to look for that next Void Grub contest just off this wave bounce here.
Can I just ask you, though, while I'm watching mid bully out, and as you said, it's all about the setup, for the Grubs coming up in 50 seconds. Bin is up in CS in the Rumble matchup. Now, it's not often you see, you know, Rumble kind of fall down in most of these lanes. I know there has been a nerf, but Bin is up 10, and that kind of attests to the laner that Bin is as well, right?
Yeah, he's been doing a great job of just getting push and control on this top side, and Zika hasn't been able to as easily contest. Obviously, we haven't been looking at top as much, so I can't tell you exactly why, but with the first strike, even from Zika, like, usually you get a lot of Arcane Commerce in this lane just to try and get more of that poke down, but opting in to try and accelerate with his gold. And I don't dislike the idea here from Zika. It's just like, hey, if Bin has to approach the wave to try and hit it, I can just get a ton of gold, try and accelerate myself into strong team fights, especially, as we say, at this Void Grubs that are about to come up now.
As I think good itemization helps with that as well, by the way. Bin has got double magic resist with null magic mantle as well as a Negatron cloak, as we are moving up for these Grubs. It was a good call to Agda 3 before for BLGs. We saw that trade, but this time LNG do not want to give away another Grub.
Yeah, Bin starting to move down. I think he just needs to try and zone Zika off from joining this, though, as 80 carries contest mid push, but Elk moving over.
Oh, flash on. He goes in and with a Magnet Storm draws them in. A flash gets interrupted as he arrows the counterpunch, but for LNG, Hung is too low to re-engage. Zika's trying to burn down Bin, and he's just getting zoned off as well, but gets a flip back and now tries to out-team fight with the Paranoia in. BLG group on up, and they see enough. They dive onto this jungler as it's trade for trade, but BLG in the middle of the pit getting hit by scouters. Wei gets over on the backside, but LNG have numbers advantage again. Bin's trying to carry the rest, and he does eventually with Elk getting the fourth shot, but now BLG bring in Knight. He wasn't in the fight, and that was a different. Shockwave brings on in, holds scout, saves Wei, and he picks up the kill. Knight chases down with the rest of LNG, already falling so close. Gala tries to be that team fight AD carry, and when LPL goes head to head, you ask for more of that, please.
That was such a sick fight. LNG thought they had that moment to take the fight because it was just off screen, but Hung gets a great ultimate onto the TP from Knight right as he comes in, So in theory, it's a 4 versus 5, but they'd already used some of those key ultimates in that initial play. And then that rumble ult from Zika doesn't really work out because everyone dives into the pit to try and kill off WeiWei. And here, Bin gets a ton of damage done. Elk is managing to finish off some folks. And watch this ult from Knight. Keeps Scout pinned against the wall, so he just barely can't get some of that follow-up damage onto Elk. And then it's at least fishing for Zika. They don't quite get him, but they'll take Gala as the conciliatory prize.
Apologise to people back home. Was looking at what Bin was doing in the back line. Didn't see Knight bopped away. So again, some nice mechanics here after Hung got caught out and was the position of targeting from BLG, but in the end, BLG still winning out. Some surefire mechanics. Knight rejoining in. 2 kills on Gala, 1 on Knight now, and there's a small gold lead as LNG, the retribution is going to be the fact that they're 2 dragons up.
But I think the fallback plan for LNG yesterday was a lot of these team fights. They didn't really look as successful as they would traditionally, playing through these side lanes, trying to play through Scout. When you are already in a deficit and you're trying to outfight BLG, that's not exactly where you want to be. So this game very much under control of BLG, and as long as they don't give opportunities for LNG to play off of like picks from Gala with WeiWei.
Oh, that's a pick. They give opportunity. Hung's trying to save the play, but instead Zika's already dead. Under turret, it will end up being a trade, but it's only support for supporters. Elk now sits down, waiting for that shot to come through, and onto Hung. It's being tanked up by Knight, who walked on in. WeiWei wants to slow here with the stride breaker, but it's not enough. Elk just walks out in smooth fashion, and BLG open up the turret and open up the advantage to this first game of the day.
If BLG had that push in mid, so happy to roam Knight up and just look for the dive or the tower. There was just no hope for Zika on that one. Completely falls in LWei. You're going to start up this Rift Herald as well, knowing that you have to try and get control of both top, and the reset came through for Gala in mid lane, so numbers advantage in the map for BLG.
I've just been told that was the latest first blood of World so far, by the way, which I'm very surprised that it wasn't even that late. Second grub spawn, and yeah, we're fighting as BLG. We come back to the reality that they're also going to be taking the Herald. So this gold lead is about to skyrocket, and it's just moments of individual players as a MasterCard lane economy snapshot will show us exactly what I mean. Gala being one of that, Elk on the other side, 1,200 gold lead here at the 14-minute mark.
Yeah, I think this is where BLG need to try and set up their lanes so that then they're not getting caught out. So Bin should be fine. I like the fact that they're setting them up against Scout with the early or with the side lane under Bin's control. There shouldn't be much windows for Scout to push in. And as long as Wei, I want to keep track of him, keeps an eye on Knight, makes sure that there's no way that like Gala and Zika can try and jump on him. I think BLG should be fine and just start playing for some of these key objectives. 2 dragons for LNG though is pretty nice because it means that they can actually just look to continuously pressure these side lanes as these dragons come up.
Well, Hung is trying to add some pressure of his own onto the red buff. WeiWei is sure behind him. He takes the paranoia. The Ashe arrow doesn't connect though, so he's bought time. Wei has to ulti in the end, but WeiWei takes him down. The Shockwave looking for a trade, finds it easily, and WeiWei's now in trouble. The curtain call tries to slip the gap, but with a Hung ulti lying down, or rather on, Gala's in so much trouble. He gets ulted by Bin on the back end, and LNG have to run for their lives. BLG turn a fight again.
This was looking like LNG versus TL. TL saw the pick against LNG, they turned it around, and now, next day, BLG did the exact same thing. LNG overextend, and it's the Shockwave from Knight, which sets up that big turnaround.
At least Scout's going to be able to get this turret, you think, right? But they've got no grubs. It's a little bit slower than you'd expect. However, Bin pays respect. Grubs go down, or rather, turret, excuse me, as mid-turret's still under fire, and even though it's a Jhin, they do have 6 grubs.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to get it off of this wave, though. You can see WeiWei coming across to just try and cover some of this pressure, and Gala should be there, I think, on the next rotation. So BLG should just back away, but we see it here. The invade coming through from Hung. WeiWei just isn't quite here, and you're still waiting like Gala, yes, gets the ultimate, but it ends up missing, and there's just no real damage apart from WeiWei, so it takes a while for this Vi to go down, and then the Shockwave was just clean from Knight. Sets up perfectly for the curtain call. On is able to set down a bunch of control in this area, and the TP from Bin is just the final nail in the coffin for the LNG play.
Bin cleaning that kill up in the end as well. Buffers the blast cone. Ward's getting thrown down as Gala looks a little bit triggered by that ending kill as well. He's been the target of selection here by BLG. Two deaths now taken, and on the other end, he is getting outmatched by his enemy AD carry. 1,800 now is the lead between them on Elk's side.
But this is what I was talking about for BLG, right? On and Wei up here, making sure the Knight can successfully collect these waves, because Orianna is so vulnerable on a side lane, and that's where you see many teams kind of forego that protection and suddenly you pounce on the mid laner, you get a tower, the game swings in LNG's favor, but BLG hyper aware that these are the kind of plays that LNG want to go for and are covering well.
As you said, I mean, Knight also being safe when they move away for a second, as Ben is just having it out with Scout. Wei now moves towards bot to see if there's anything he can do. Control ward, no vision there, but Scout is not overstepping. He clears the wave and walks back to safety.
Yeah, 30 seconds until Dragon, so he just wants to make sure that he doesn't get picked beforehand. Going to try and just get as much gold into his back pocket as possible. Has the TP to come in, but I think he's still a ways off of finishing his second item. But BLG now, group up on mid. They have Rift Herald, but I don't think they need it with this grub burn.
Gala stepping forward. You wouldn't expect it, but he's got his team behind him. WeiWei can always turn out the lights, but Dagda, that turret that we were talking about before, is finally down. 3k back to the margin, and the Dragon you were just mentioning, up in 5 seconds. I think items are important here. As we look across the board, and we see that Elk sitting on 2 items now with a rapid fire cannon picked up moments ago. Knight also with needlessly large. There's a lot of damage here for BLG thanks to that gold lead.
But if I'm LNG, I don't try and fight this.
Okay.
I think you're in a position where you just try and pick off the waves, give a first Dragon across, and then just look for, I was going to say a cross map, but they're not really in the best of positions. Rift Herald used on bot by Wei is a nice call because it just creates another point of pressure and draws LNG away from a potential pushed mid into top side, and now they have to defend the bot lane tower.
Scout by himself to do that for now, right? He looks for the eye. The turret won't go down, but the charge successful. BLG in front of Dragon. You said LNG don't have to, Dagda, but they're like, maybe we do. We have to fight over everything. What region is this?
I mean, LNG are not the team that usually goes for this, but...
Arrow blocked by On. Here we go, the engage, but it's taken by Elk in the end. The re-engage comes through from On as he jumps into the back line, but isolated is hung. He has to flash away, but Scout brings them together to clap. LNG are taking the fight, and BLG don't know what just hit them. Scout is this team. Scout is LNG, and without Scout, they were worried, but he made it to Worlds, and he is sick of the accusations.
Have you not seen Scout's Yone? This is what this man does. You'll see the importance that he brings to this team, and the immediate teleport to the bottom side. Tried to get the tower, wasn't in a position to do so, but LNG, they're going to get this second tower for themselves as well. That play was sick.
That was a 4k gold swing just about, or maybe even more with the turret going down. LNG with a 2k gold lead out of nowhere, and I don't know what just hit them. I don't think BLG know what just happened. I wasn't expecting that, and again, we've seen Scout's Yone before, Dagda. We've seen Scout plays like this before as well.
Yeah. But watch, you get Zika who's trying to come in on the side, so you've got multiple members of BLG trying to protect the back line, and as Zika comes in, it's that setup that forces everyone up into this corridor, which then just sets up Scout beautifully again. Like, the ultimate from Zika, core to setting that up, and then LNG just run away with that. But this has always been a team that strives when they're on these comfort picks, and you're seeing it on the screen.
The Wei head nod, like, yo, respect.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was sick, respect. And even in the end,
damage.
I mean, it's crazy to me because, yeah, BLG weren't in the fight. They didn't get to play the fight. LNG's top laner actually adding a lot as well. There's a reason that they're prioritizing this pick, and that Zika is also looking so good on it. Obviously, again, despite other people transitioning away from the Rumble, there's still an ode of faith that you're going to get from this top laner who's developed over the year.
Yeah, and I think that really suits Zika, because even when he came into the league and he was on IG, he was like the Camille, the ribbon guy that would just play for these side lanes, and that was the IG win condition. But as teams started to ban him out, it was kind of like, well, you don't really have any more flair, do you? But he has developed so much as a player. Now picking up the Rumble, I don't think LNG can really work with him on a split push manner, but certainly when it comes to team fights like this guy is a carry master and is showing it on the main stage.
After the sealing of fate from Scout, Zika cleans it up. Paranoia used again. BLG getting engaged on, and it's onto Elk. He's a backline condition, but WeiWei has gone too deep before Zika can get there. But Elk is still going to get traded. Again, he's burning them down. We just highlighted the man, and he's taken BLG all out. They're trying to deal with him, but he's still so healthy. There's no damage left, and Scout will deal with another fate sealed. And LNG's team fights are looking blissful. On gets out, bit only by the hair of his chinny chin, but Hung has got a date with another support. It looks cute. It looks great. He takes a turret shot and they dissipate, but On and Hung as they leave each other's side. LNG, it's still a big win for this huge red side.
And sometimes you just have that team BLG can't get over. Last time JDG, this year maybe LNG, because this was sick. You end up missing the ult from Gala, but with WeiWei going in, the TP flank from Zika was perfect. Again, a great ultimate from the Rumble. Just decimates the back line. And sure, Knight tries his best on the opposite side of the fight, but you're jumping into Scout, you're jumping into Gala. It's never going to be a fun time.
It's just looking so clean. It's these comfort picks up for LNG are now starting to tear BLG apart. BLG, you know, Dagger, I know I had them as the undefeated. A lot of people had them undefeated in their pick'ems coming from their lolesports pick'ems, but like LNG surprising us yesterday against TL as well. They kind of picked apart the pieces from the mid game, and they are doing it again against a much heavier opponent in BLG when BLG had such a big early lead.
So though BLG first out on the map in a decent spot now, trying to see if they can fish for picks on this top lane. They do need to start getting some control over like mid push and that, which should be handy, but I don't think LNG are just like out of the woodwork and free winning this now, because you're still looking at IE about to be finished from Rell, because that's going to be a big boon for him. And as you start to trip over towards third item for Knight, he's going to be in a great spot, and finally you're getting the completion of a lot of the armor.
It hits on. As he's leaving enemy jungle, it hits on, and he doesn't have Merc Treads. It's paranoia! Gala, that arrow was out of this world.
And why did you set up Baron for LNG as well? The push on bot lane for Scout, he has TP to join, but he's being matched by Bin, who doesn't have his. He interrupts though. Bin just barely gets it, and I think that stops LNG from going for the play.
Bin won't get stopped either. I mean, Scout is doing good damage, but Bin can just walk out of this. You're right, it stops a Baron. Dagda, beautiful hit there, and even better from Bin as well to stop LNG tenfold.
Also, just getting that cooldown out from Scout alleviates so much map pressure. You can't really play with him fully on this bottom side to now start threatening tier 2s the whole time, but Dragon still here for LNG. That's still going to be a third one, a potential soul now for the LNG squad.
Now we watch and wait. We look for the potential Dragon setup coming through as LNG play between Baron and Soul Point, or another pick like that using Gala's tool. A well, concise, accurate arrow, Dagda. That's what I just saw, and as you said, I love your point. Scout can't play for sides anymore without the TP, and you were talking before about Zika, how vulnerable he is playing on his side lane. He can't play for split push really as well because of the tools there for BLG and the lack of escape the Rumble has.
Yeah, and I think that's where, again, they can try and feed into that, but at this stage, Scout needs to start playing with the team. Zika has his teleport available, but you've got double available for BLG, so always an option to try and do something spicy, but with Ksante and Orianna, I think it's more, again, like, group as 5, try and put a lot of pressure on mid and see if you can base that TP out from Zika with the Baron start.
That 5k is still there. I'm looking at gold because I'm looking at third items soon to be completed. It feels like top lane is the first stop there. On the other side, of course, Elk was always ahead. Remember, 1,800, 1,900 gold throughout this early game as Hung is moving into danger. He gets engaged on it. It's a nice Magnet Stormer setup as well with the cease and desist. He tries to turn it. Everything used on the support now means danger for BLG. Into the back line, WeiWei has just run on in. The shockwave to get him in the back, but Scout already disengages. Bin had to ulti to get out of there. LNG have 4 alive and health bars to start the Baron.
Great setup from Scout, and the fact that Hong stayed alive for so long meant that BLG overcommitted into the area, and now they're on towards the Baron, way half health. Scout spots him.
He's got no flash, he's got no ulti. As you said, Scout just says, cease and deliver. Takes a free kill, and LNG in a matchup that I did not see coming have just outclassed BLG in this mid game as Red Bull Baron power play is theirs.
But this has always been a team, this split, that when they get their picks, look astounding. Look like a team that can take on the world, and Zika's Rumble, Scout, Yone, it's a perfect blend. And when you look at this, yes, it's a nice pick on the Hong, but with that stun coming through and then the stun again from Hong, it makes it so difficult to follow up. They then overextend. And the engage here from Scout and from WeiWei was perfect. Just absolutely rips through Knight, who didn't have his flash available. And it's a 2-for-1 special.
LNG, shear it out of their mind. You know, Dagda, for me, this hits home, this hits history. You know, I look at the stage, I'm reminded of Shanghai, I'm reminded of 2019, 2020 years where a lot of these players went up against each other. There's a lot of new faces, of course. People like Zika, but went around back then. You know, Wei, who rose up to fame after the eras of Casa, MLXG. Like, there are so many legacies built on either side, and when we got Knight versus Scout, we knew it'd be a doozy. I just didn't know how much on Scout's side after Knight was bullying him in the early game. So again, it's a pleasure to open up with this on Worlds, as LNG still being the favorites here. Now with the gold leader, found themselves a free support, and WeiWei flew in with the paranoia. It's a 2-quick kill. Bin though separates, which is great, but WeiWei flashes up, builds a bit of space while the rest of LNG try to find the back pieces, but Elf zones himself out from Scout, almost dies in the end, and Bin, even though he looked for the chase, dies as well. Zika flashes on top of Knight, and the underdogs of the LPL are taking it to the tournament favorites.
The Kingmaker in Knight has just fallen to the bidding king in Zika, and that might be the end of this game. LNG, they're in front of the base. Shots fired from Gala, from Elk, but I don't think it's enough.
Death timers, I mean, there are huge. Wei's up in 10 seconds, but Knight's not there. Bin's not there for another 25 at least. Elk needs to pull off a miracle, and with a thin wave, I think he doesn't have to. I think he forgets it. On just threatens him out of the base, but LNG have broken down mid inhibitor, and they've got all the gold to play with in the world.
And you're just never getting a chance to set up this strong 5v5 that BLG have dropped it for. LNG are doing a great job of finding these picks in the jungle, finding opportunities where everyone on BLG isn't together, and BLG are kind of throwing everything at one person and then have nothing left for the follow-up afterwards.
Dagger, it's those pick tools. It's the draft we talked about. And I think for LNG, you know, I'm used to this team falling behind in the early game and not knowing what to do. What a false narrative. I mean, that's the old days.
But we're also getting to see, you know, the moments where you can punish on. This is a guy who, when he oversteps, you can definitely find moments to pick him off, and LNG are kind of calling his bluff here on multiple chances, especially Gala. Now the engage.
At least for Scout, this is last hope spot for BLG to find a pick, but they've done no damage on Scout. Instead, he turns it as WeiWei flies in again. Free farming, Scout does it again! Sealing the fate of the first seed of the LPL. That's my Faker protege.
Scout is a man on a mission, and BLG are in his sights. Bin with TP to the tower. Can he get the wave? Can he do something here? But it feels like there's nothing left.
How do you defend? He's got nothing in the tank, and BLG might have good early game or good early lanes, but LNG read their game, read their minds. The third seed of the LPL, take them down, move to 2-0. And when we say Scout is LNG, we bloody mean it.
And what a pleasure it is to have him here in Berlin. Scout showing up absolutely incredible, but I know there's going to be a very happy Goldberg over on the AD, and I want to hear from him.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Oh, Doctor, you could not be more right. I got my boy ready already. Normally, I would say don't be a game one Andy, but you know what, baby? It's a best of one. It's a best of one. LNG's better. No, I mean, I thought that was a phenomenal performance. I really love the draft that came out from LNG in this one. The way they piloted at first was a bit scuffed. They had a rough time with some of the pressure that came out from BLG, but at the end of the day, those team fights from LNG were just stellar.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This game was a story in 2 parts, honestly.
We don't need the first part, I only need the second part. Most movies are defined by their ending, and my God, was this cinema.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's just another episode of regional familiarity that gets you.